It's time for the big game alongside Jarrett, Payton, the son of Sweetness, and me, Chris Hagan. We did not plan on wearing identical shirts. The one thing that differentiates us is the top button.
Yeah, that one looks like it would fit me too.
Whatever, Mr. Muscles. Hey, guess what? We're coming out. You got to come out of the gate strong. You got to start strong and finish strong. That's the key of comedy. Who better?
The best
Frank
of the best.
Caliendo. He's on the road. He's dumb enough to come on this show 3 times now, JP.
We appreciate you.
What are you thinking?
It's 3?
Yeah,
He forgot the other 2 already.
Oh, man. No, I remember one. I do remember
Arizona.
one. Yeah, Arizona was one.
And then last year you were roaming around Radio Row. And I
Yeah.
just
Where
yelled,
was the
"Frank!"
Super Bowl? Wait, where was the
New
Super
Orleans.
Bowl?
New Orleans.
I wasn't in New Orleans.
What's the one before that? Las Vegas.
Yeah, it was Vegas. It
was
had
it
to be
Vegas?
Vegas.
Well, you were in Vegas.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
We need to bring the better brain people back on because
There you go.
none of us remember. Frank, it's always great to see you. I feel bad for you though because you're like a toy that everybody wants to pull.
I am
string
the world's
and make-
greatest filler at the Super Bowl. That's what it is. So if there's no Hall of Famer or a current player or the water boy from one of the Super Bowl teams, then I am the person that everybody's like, hey, get him in here because he can fill 20 minutes pretty well. And it's fun because I got a lot of tickets to sell all over the country. So I just
Plug the website real quick.
FrankOnstage.com, so you don't even have to spell Caliendo.
See?
Probably a good move.
That's a good move.
Yeah.
You are like a utility baseball player. We could put you at shortstop. We could put you in right field. There's so many things you can talk about and so many ways you can say it.
You know what I love? I love you do what you do, but how the sports community has embraced you. That's
Very early on, yeah.
That's what's amazing to me because every time I think of you, I think of you doing some impression of someone in sports.
Yeah, and that's a positive and a negative, too.
Okay.
See, the positive is that's the group where, okay, so I do have this grouping of people, which is great because, there's comics like a Sebastian Maniscalco has the Italian family. I'm like watered down Italian, so it's like like a secret Italian. It's like I am the witness protection program basically. So you look at me and you don't think Italian right away. If you're a Latino comic, there's all kinds of different ethnic groups and stuff like that. Everybody has a person. So I don't really have that. I have the impression thing, but then the sports thing is what brought everything together. So that's a very astute observation. I'm glad it came from you and not Chris, but it's should have known. But yeah, so that's the thing. And being on Fox NFL Sunday all those years, NFC cities, even more than AFC cities, know because I was on every week. And even if it wasn't doing impressions of sports people, it was talking about sports, and that just reinforced. It's this whole thing of, just consistency prevails in the end.
Yep.
And that's people tell you, I did this for 2 years and it didn't work. Like, it becomes 10 years to become an overnight success. There's some that do it quicker, but you just go at it and keep at it, and you can eventually build your audience and they'll know you for something. But the other side of it is people think I'm just a sports guy. So then when I do shows, people think it's going to be all sports. I wanted to come see you, but I got to get my buddies to come see you and not my girlfriend or my wife or both and you're like, no, it's for everybody. You just will get the sports stuff more, and I sprinkle it around and do a lot of sports stuff at the very end, like a fireworks ending, if I haven't gotten to it. The middle of the show's got the Morgan Freeman, and that's when they realized this wasn't only going to be sports. Or Jeff Goldblum, ooh, very odd, but we could talk about the Super Bowl, couldn't we? It's not just going to be John Madden or John Gruden, I'll tell you what, man, which almost was Adam Schefter, and I'm not even sure how I almost went into that. And Stephen A. Smith, indubitably. You got to understand where I'm coming from with some of these things.
Or maybe a Shaq talking to Chuck Barkley. See, that's what I'm basically the Rosetta Stone for Shaq. Nobody knows what it's saying. I look at him, I read the lips, and that doesn't help either. That's the thing about Shaq. Nobody knows what it's saying. I just correct him a lot.
Here's why I know you have some type of mental condition is because it's one thing to start doing an impression of one person, but the way you can just meander
So
and
I
go
think
from
that's what
one to
makes
the
it,
other.
because here's the thing. I think that's what makes me different. And it's a positive and a negative because everybody wants you to go do this impression for an hour. I'm like, that's not really what I do. I go out of them like a radio station producer. I'm just pressing buttons, and I talk as myself and find a way to work. Robin Williams, and who knew? Okay, but we're in San Francisco, and that was the birthplace of Robin Williams as far as comedy goes because he's from Detroit. Who knew?
Well, Frank, I've told you this before, and it's not just blowing smoke, but you would be funny even without the voices. And I think that's what some people don't have. Some people can do imitations, but they're not funny.
I think there's some of that. It definitely, people wait for the impressions with me. So I do. It's in person. You see, I'm more sarcastic and kind of a woe is me type of person. But on stage, I'm like a hyper over the top type person. So it's trying to meld that and get people to see the actual me. But I definitely, behind the scenes, I'm funny in a different way.
It
very
is.
sarcastic.
When I see you off camera, your face, you even have a different face. The Frank off camera face.
Yeah.
Frank, he's good at impressions too. I won't ask him to do any, but he is amazing.
That's the problem is if you ask me to do them, I can't do them.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure you can. What is your best impression?
Well, it's people like I can do my Uncle Ronnie. You probably don't know him. I can do a little bit of Christopher Russo here. We got Frank Caliendo.
I saw him this morning.
A little bit of Christopher Russo.
But how long does it take? What's the toughest one that took you forever?
Oh, there's just tons that take. I mean, there's so many that I can't do that I don't do them. Since I don't do them, people are like, you're great at all of them. I'm like, well, I'm not doing the terrible ones, the ones that I'm really bad at. So it takes time. So it could take a year. If you listen to me doing John Madden when I first started, hey, folks, John Madden here.
And then it came down to being a regular John Madden.
Oh, my gosh.
And now that it's a regular John Madden, now Nicolas Cage is going to be John Madden, and he's going to sound like this. Boom.
Well, I love the craft of it. Yeah, I started off as a comedian, and I did so well, I became a sportscaster. So I love the craft of comedy. And then when you hear somebody, and you're the state of the art, I know there are other, no pun intended, imitators, but no duplicators of what you do. And it's always like, I think you've explained to me before, you have to find the end. You have to find the one thing you can latch onto, and then
what brings
it grows
What
from
brings
there.
it in? What's the starter? Let's see. We're trying to think of like a Jeff Goldblum. Oh yes. You start to you pull the cord to start the lawnmower. Yes, and then it starts going. Like Tony Romo. I call it revving up the Tony Romobile. Oh Jim, here we go, Jim.
Is it funny when you? This is what I imitate. I can never imitate somebody to their face. So when you do Gruden to his face, like.
Yeah.
I had a coworker one time.
Fun, man.
A coworker one time said, "Hey, I hear you do a great imitation of me. Let me hear it." And I did it, and he wanted to punch me in the face. So it either means it was too good or it wasn't good enough. I could never do it to somebody's face.
I think you do it to somebody's face so they understand it's not there's no ill intention.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole point of what I find things in people that I like or that make me go, that's what makes that person unique and interesting.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't like that about themselves. That could be the case. But I don't do it in a mean way. I don't do it in an angry way.
Right.
It's about how do I find something positive in this person that it might annoy somebody else, but it doesn't annoy me. It's the thing I like about them. It's the ability to be interesting that not all of us have.
Isn't it great when there's somebody that you imitate and then you see the real person in life doing the thing that you notice?
It's really fun. And sometimes Gruden's actually become more Gruden because of me. Like he texted me one time.
If you're with me.
Yeah, knock on. He always had that, but he one time texted me like 3 a.m, which I think is his lunchtime. And he's like, they had me do a commercial where they wanted me to do an impersonation of you, man.
Man, look at the
What
eyebrows.
you do? That's it, man. That's what we're doing. Little shit. And I ended up seeing him in Italy a couple of years ago, just by happenstance, if that's the right word. But it was totally random. I'm in Rome. And I take a picture, a selfie in front of the Coliseum. I tweet it out or put it on Instagram story, and his assistant sees it, his coworker, his guy, Jeff Leonardo, and he's like, "Did you know John is in Rome right now?" I'm like, first of all, how would I Grudar? But we end up having dinner, and he's doing spaghetti 2Y bruschetta, man. You ever had this? Try a little spaghetti 2Y. Who's the primary on spaghetti 2Y bruschetta? The fullback? No, it's the meatball, man.
I like when you do the, I tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, man.
We got to do, we're going to let you go because you got to save your voice.
Got to ask you, Super Bowl 60, who takes home the
we
Lombardi?
We need Mel Kiper to tell us.
Talk about tremendous situations. People looking at Drake May coming out. They said he's not going to have the set of the toolbox for an NFL quarterback. And then, you look at a guy like Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, they said he's the first one in his class in a tremendous class of draft picks. I didn't have him up at the top. And you wouldn't have him there with a Lamar Jackson type of fellow. You like different types of players. You know, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have said that Sam Bradford. That's a problem because he's not even in the league anymore. But talking about Sam Darnold, that's 2 syllables in the last name, but there's Sam starts it. Sam Darnold, the number 1 quarterback. If you read draft right now, you'd be hard pressed to tell me otherwise.
Who's your pick, Mel?
I'm going to go with I'm going to go Seattle. On the other hand, I like the Seattle. I like what they do, but I tell you, I'm going with Drake May and the New England Patriots, mostly because of Mike Vrabel and anybody who can go from a V to an R in their last name without a vowel. I'll tell you what, man, I love that.
He's Frank Caliendo. Plug the website one more time.
FrankOnstage.com, at Frank Caliendo on all social media. If you can't spell Caliendo, which I even struggle with, at Frank C, the letter C, the word alien, and the word do, at Frank C Alien Do, and all the dates. I'm in Hartford next week, Connecticut. I go to Milwaukee. I'm all over the place. I go to Irvine, Oxnard, and I'm trying to remember.
You need to memorize the whole thing. Frank
I need to do that.
Go to the website.
Yes.
Check him out.
Cincinnati. You ever been to Cincinnati,
I tell you what,
Ohio, man? Dayton. That's where
played.
I went to college at Dayton, man. FrankOnStage.com for all the dates, including Salt Lake City, man.
Nobody better. Frank, thanks for the time, buddy. Started the show off in fine fashion. Let's hit a break. We're back with more after this.
Simone Eli joining you on day 2 of Radio Row here at the Super Bowl. Had the great opportunity to speak with 2 veterans here with the Wounded Warrior Project and the great opportunity to go to the Super Bowl on Sunday. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. So much respect for everything that you guys have done for our country. Certainly appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about what this experience has been like for you guys so far, having the very exciting opportunity to be here at the Super Bowl.
Wow, I mean, I want to say thank you to the Wounded Warrior Project for surprising me with the Super Bowl tickets. Not only that, but, we get to go to the Pro Bowl later today, and this just media experience behind the scenes. I see some of the ESPN stars and other media folks that I've never seen in person, so just to be here is amazing, so thank you.
Yeah, been a lot to take in, I'm sure.
It is. Thank you again for the Wounded Warriors program, for allowing all this to happen. This is a very surreal experience for me. I'm just having a great time. Seeing what goes on behind the scenes it's pretty awesome, man. And just thank you for everything you guys do. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about the tickets and you guys receiving the tickets. I know that was a really special moment for you.
So yeah, Wounded Warrior Project, we spent some time up in Bend, Oregon at Project Odyssey, where they have veterans come up and kind of, talk about, PTSD, anxiety, things that we're going through. I kept in contact with a few of the media folks from Wounded Warrior Project. They invited me up to Jacksonville for a game. Basically, they told me initially, hey, we're going to interview you on the field. The players will be warming up behind you. And then, we'll ask you a few questions about Project Odyssey in Oregon. So I said, okay, let me figure out what I'm going to say. So when I get out there to the field, they said, hey, just start waving. And then after that, we'll ask you some questions. So I had my back turned to the field. I was waving and I was ready for questions. And then Devin Lloyd from the Jaguars, he came up with 2 Super Bowl tickets and said, hey, congratulations. I was like, oh my God, I'm glad that there wasn't a mic on me because I did say some words, but to this day, it's surreal. Like, I can't believe I'm here. I mean, a whole week of NFL is wonderful.
Yeah, you have a special connection to Devin Lloyd, as his dad, obviously. Tell me a little bit about your son and just how special this is to be here. I know you're supposed to be meeting him for lunch as well.
Oh, yes, man. It's a blessing to have a son like him, just to see him living out his dreams, just being there as a support role now. Just following him and just hoping that he can accomplish everything he wants to accomplish. So right now, he's here. We're supposed to meet for lunch, but I'm just super excited to be here, super happy to be here. And I just wish him all the best. I wish he was playing, the Super Bowl. The team was good enough to make it, but, always better luck next year. But, I'm just happy and thrilled about this whole experience.
Yeah. Are you guys going to the game, right? So what's on tap for the next couple of days before kickoff?
Okay, we got the Pro Bowl tonight. I know we got tickets to see the celebrity Top Golf, also celebrity flag football. I mean, Wounded Warrior Project went all out. I'm so excited, so happy. Appreciate it, everything.
I love that.
I look forward to all the events that's going on right now, and then the game, and then the actual Super Bowl. How big is that? So you just can't get no better than that.
Gentlemen, enjoy it. Thank you again.
Thank you
well deserved, and appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Levi's Stadium, Santa Clara, California, the site of Super Bowl 60. JP, is it Levi or Levi's? I always get confused with the jeans.
I think Levi's.
What was that, apostrophe S?
I mean, I think so.
What's your jean size? I'm going to say 34.
I have no clue. Everything's custom.
Oh, excuse me. I
Sorry.
get off the rack. I get that 33-30.
And custom fit.
Got them short legs. Here's somebody who doesn't have short legs, but he's got a very big suitcase because he's used it a lot in his career. Josh Johnson, the man who's played for more NFL teams than even he can count. The QB extraordinaire. More playbooks than have ever been invented. Josh, thanks for visiting us here today.
Thanks for having me, fellas. How we doing today?
How many teams, seriously, have you played for? Do you know?
I think they said 18.
I think they said, you know what? You don't remember me because you've seen so many media dorks like me. I work in Indianapolis, and you dropped in with the horseshoe for a little bit.
I had a little pissed off in there when Andrew was there. He hurt his shoulder.
That's right. That's right.
Man, that's one of my journeys. One of the sides.
You know what's great is, before I interrupt Jarrett like I just
It's all good.
a locker room, they say it's a cliche, it's like a family, but it is a family. Brothers, you bond. And I imagine your phone call, your contacts is huge because you get in somewhere, you build relationships, and sometimes it's just on to the next.
Yeah, she mad at me right now because she said, you keep talking to everybody. I'm like, well, some of these people I ain't seen in years. I didn't even know they was doing media. Some of my old teammates was in here doing media. Some people that are just legends of the game. Some media people that I've crossed paths with and, different teams. So for me, I'm just grateful to be able to actually, people remember me.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually had a good imprint on their life. You know what I mean?
Well, the one thing that I see as a former player is not the moving around. It's more of that people in organizations trust you.
Right.
Is that am I correct about that? Because, I mean, to bring somebody in to have confidence that they can figure out a playbook, which is very, very hard to do just when you have a full training camp. But the fact is sometimes that's not the case. You just get brought in and you have to be able to learn on the fly. It speaks to your knowledge of the game of football.
No, for sure. When I was younger, I didn't really understand. But one thing I always did, I always took ownership of maximizing whatever opportunity I was given. And some of those opportunities was just being a sponge. And what I learned by me being a sponge, the coaches was paying attention to that. And so when those moments showed up where they needed a guy that they know would come in there, grind out the playbook, and be able to get in the best chance to win in emergency moments, I kind of created a lane for myself doing that. And so now it has spread to numerous of different coaching staffs, numerous of different people. And I'm grateful for how God put that perspective in my life when I was younger, because it's really hard when you're young to really have that perspective because everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to be the guy. And so I was just glad that I had that perspective because it's paying off for me a lot more now than I could have ever imagined.
Now with the Commanders, we've seen with the Commanders, we saw with the Broncos. I mean, you got to have a backup.
Sure.
Yeah, some people go, "Oh, you're just rolling around. You're just rolling around with a clipboard
until you need one."
Yeah. And then when you find, why is it? I think, and you'll know much better than I do. I think quarterback in the NFL is the most difficult position in all of pro sports. Sure. Why is it so difficult as a player, and why is it so difficult to find guys that can do it?
The most number one difficult thing about quarterbacking is discernment. You literally, every conversation, every should I or shouldn't I moment shows up for those 3 hours. And you literally have to say, all right, do I do it or do I don't? Whether that's making this pass, whether that's throwing this ball away, or sometimes should I take the sack? Or I need to have a conversation with this guy. Should I have this conversation with this guy because this may overwhelm him? This may not overwhelm him. It's so many different decision-making. Literally, I was telling my wife after our game, I was like, the one thing that I cannot prepare for is the emotional roller coaster of a game. No matter how prepared I am, no matter what, because your brain is processing so much that literally after the game, you just go home and you just want to just sit there and just do nothing because your brain is taxed, literally taxed. And that's something that we all talk about as quarterbacks, after the game. You're literally, how you feeling? They be like, man, I just wanted to go home and just do nothing and just sit there and just be able to just gather myself because mentally you just on go at the highest level because every decision matters.
Yeah.
Every decision matters.
Yeah, I think about all the quarterbacks that I've been around from college, college and pro. So in college, it was Ken Dorsey. In the pros, it was Steve McNair, God rest his soul. but I learned so much from each of those guys. Like, if you didn't know pass protection, you weren't getting in with Steve McNair.
No.
Like, you won't even see the field if you don't understand that. On the flip side, you had a guy in Ken Dorsey who just was a student of the game, wasn't super athletic, but just knew where the ball needed to go and would get it to his athletes. You've been around. Who's giving you the best advice on the quarterback standpoint, or a coach or a quarterback that you played with?
Quarterbacks, it started with Brian Greasy. I'll never forget. Like, he ended up being my quarterback coach for the Niners too. Greasy, man, he literally showed me, like, he set a standard for me early. Because I remember first walking into quarterback school and playing for Coach Gruden. He had all these checks and everything, and I'm like, excuse my language, I'm like, what the hell is this, bro? I'm like, oh my God. And I watched Greasy go in there and just take command. Like, literally, he would see cover zero, knew the check to get to immediately. Like, literally, he'll walk to the line of scrimmage, break the huddle, and 2 seconds later, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, bro, how is you doing all that? And then he told me how he looked at things. He started telling me, like, oh, I look for this. I look for that. And he started telling me how the front ties into the coverages. And how, he was like, if they run in this front, they can only do X, Y, and Z. Or if the nickel travels, that means this. If the nickel doesn't travel, that means that. If the backers flip when you motion, that means it's going to be cover 2. And I'm like, as a rookie, I'm like, what? And I just kept writing. I'm just writing it down. But, like, now it makes so much sense, like, because I'm that way now. Like, I tell my coaches, I'm like, the one thing you're going to get out of me, I'm going to always get you in the right play. I'm going to make sure we're going to play clean. I'm going to get you in the right play to where that you can actually say, all right, we doing our job or we not. I'm not a backyarder type quarterback. I don't live in that world. I don't like to live in that world. Everything is processed. Everything is it's on page with the coaches as well as the players, because I feel like that's the best way to be successful. We all got to be on the same page.
Now, did you play at San Diego?
Yep. Coach
Was
Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh your coach?
I was his first quarterback.
Because I was going to say, I remember when I was in Indianapolis, San Diego came to play at
sure
Butler,
did.
and
Yep.
we went to the
That was
story.
me,
Because Harbaugh was there, and
I told the Jim Kelly story.
Yeah. So that was crazy. You know what? I worked in Bowling Green, Kentucky before I worked in Indy, and his dad, Jack Harbaugh, was coach at Western Kentucky. So when he hurt his arm wanting to, I almost said a bad word on TV, wanting to slap Jim Kelly, he came to the game because he couldn't play. So he came and he had his and he wasn't even a coach of the team. He was an NFL player. He was on the sideline with his dad. He was yelling at the refs.
I don't like Jim.
Hey, he gets after it now. He ain't messing around. But I'm saying from that day, I mean, you have a guy with an NFL quarterback in your ear, and you learn that you got to be blessed physically, and you got to be blessed mentally as well. And not only that, you can't just show up at, like you said, you were learning from day one. And that learning, I'm sure now, has not stopped.
No, you never. Monty Kiffin said it best. Like, and this part of this is so many great coaches, so many great players that my journey has put me around. But it's certain things that just never stick out. I mean, you never forget. Monty Kiffin said something to me that sticks out. He said, I don't like players who tell me I got it. I'm like, what you mean? He was like, because that mean I can't coach you no more. He was like, he said, Derek Brooks been playing for me for 15 years, and he never tells me I got it. He's always wanting to be coached, and he's always trying to get better. And that, to me, I had no excuse to ever say I got it. Because I'm like, that's Derek Brooks. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, that's the standard. Like, so to me, when Monty Kiffin told me that, I understand. Like, I take ownership of that because it's always something you can learn. And the game is forever evolving. And now it's time to kind of take some steps back. Now you're starting to see people get back under center and run the ball a little bit more, so this pass rush down a little bit. And it's just so important to always constantly be a sponge. And so shout out to Monty Kiffin for telling me that.
That's a great line right there.
I love the fact that, Josh, you brought it back. The game of football is getting back to running the football. Like, it's such a big part. People forget about it because it's been this West Coast offense, everything being spread out and wanting to spread out. But look at the Eagles last year with Saquon and running the football. Like, do you see it getting back to that?
Not that you're biased or anything.
I mean, I am the resident running
being
back
a running
here.
back, son of the greatest running back of all
it's
time.
necessary.
But yeah, okay.
Like, you can't forget about it.
You're going to get your quarterback killed if you don't.
And look at teams that get to this point in the Super Bowl. They have some form of running the football, the teams that actually win the Super Bowl.
Every team that wins the Super Bowl run the ball.
Yes.
Yeah. I because like me, like I'm a quarterback, but I'm a football player first. Like in the game of football, running is so important for so many different reasons that I can go on and on about it. But like my argument used to be to everyone is like, okay, the Chiefs is the flashiest offense, right? This was the height of the Chiefs when they had Tyreek and all those guys. So go look at the Super Bowl. Every time, what did Andy Reid do? The running back ran for 130, 40 yards. I said it's necessary when you playing the elites of the elites because the pass rush is too good now. These are the best athletes on the field are the defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Like they're all 6'5", 6'4", 280 pounds running 4.4s. Like you gotta wear those guys down, bro.
It's
you
like
have to.
it's like can you run the ball? Stop the run. We got a couple more minutes with you. Let's talk about this quarterback matchup. You got Sam Darnold reinvented. Went out there and proved so many doubters wrong. Then you got the young buck, you know, talking about MVP talk.
Drake
who's
May.
out there, young fella out there doing it. What do you like about these two quarterbacks individually?
What I like about Sam, man, I'm gonna start with Sam. I like Sam. To me, he has shown to do what's necessary to win the game. If some games I got to throw for 150 yards, he's got to manage the game. Probably he's done that. You know, versus in the NFC Championship, he went out there and won the game for him. And, he silenced his critics because most people, everybody says, Seattle the best team, but we just don't trust Darnold. Well, I'm like, okay, that's part of it, the naysayers. But at the end of the day, he's doing it, and he's doing it at a high level. And I'm happy to see that because to me, it beats the narrative of how the game's supposed to be. And to me, football is such a game that the possibilities are unlimited. So stop trying to put it in a little box. And then with Drake May, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know too much about him, honestly. Coming out in college, I didn't watch him too much. And just watching him on film this year because we've had similar opponents with our likes, he's aggressive when he has to be. He understands. He's really wise beyond his age. Like, he's aggressive when he has to be. He manages the game well. Like, he did a play last week that nobody would talk about, but to me it was so necessary. They was running a duo scheme and the running back slipped. And he just ran forward and got the ball. That, to me, to be able to do that in that moment and not try to make the play worse, that shows his maturity, that shows his understanding, and that shows that he understands what he needs to do for that team to win.
It's like you said, it was one of those many decisions you have to make, and he saw it, and he went with it.
And that was a win for them because he got the ball back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And then by him getting the ball back to the line of scrimmage, now they can get back on. They can stay on track. The coach don't got to call a second and long play, a third and long play. Now they keep the game manageable. And then in a snowy game, those things are so important because, as you see, 3 points was the biggest difference. It was the difference for them to say, are we going to kick the field goal? And the Broncos said, we're not going to kick the field goal. And so all those split-second decisions is things that we don't talk about, but they're so important.
I love it.
You got to pick? You got to
pick for the game? Who do you think going to win?
I got to go with my guy. I love Mike McDonald, man.
Okay.
He was our defensive coordinator with the Ravens in 2023. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's one of those new Zen master type coaches. Like, as the world continues to know who Mike McDonald is, man. So I'm just a big fan of him, and I hope that they go out there and get a W.
How many rooms in your house is filled with gear from football teams? And can I have a hoodie from somebody?
I can give you a hoodie because I got too much stuff. I be trying to get rid of it.
John, I haven't seen you since more than a decade with your time in Indianapolis. You were always great to talk to and always great to talk to now. So
appreciate you, man.
Much success and blessed to you.
Appreciate you, fellas. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
That's Josh Johnson. He just signed with another team while we're sitting here. Just throw it to break. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on the big game alongside Jarrett Payton, the son of sweetness. I am Chris Hagan, and JP. We talk about the big topics. It's not all about what's going on, X's and O's. Sometimes it's about how the game can affect your life.
Yeah, down the line. I mean, there's so many players that my dad played with that are dealing with what we're about to talk about right now, so it hits close to home.
And it's something that wasn't thought about back in your dad's day, but now we're addressing those issues, and for that, we're going to bring in Patrick Kerney, NFL defender, not just that, star defender, and Tom Lakovic. I'm not sure you have any playing career that can compare with Patrick. We'll still bring you on the show. And let's talk about this issue. My father, 81 years old, he suffers from dementia. It's been difficult watching his life. As he started, he was like he would go in a room and not know why. He would forget what TV station I was on when you try to watch me on television. And now, I don't even feel like I'm talking to my father when I talk to him. So this is something that needs to be addressed, especially when you're talking about people that put their head at risk in football. And Patrick, let's bring you in to talk about things we're trying to do about that.
Sure. Yeah. When I retired from the game, I was well aware of a toll taken. I had 11 surgeries in 11 years. I'd do it all over again, but nonetheless, there was a price to be paid. And as time bled on, and more stories about guys going into cognitive decline, ending their lives because of it, it wears on you, and it leaves you pretty scared, candidly. And we often joke all the time as former players, hey, I can't remember where my car keys are. Ha ha. Well, because of hitting my head, and it's obviously we're masking a fear. And for the longest time, we were fearful that looking at our brains and doing any research would just come with sort of sympathy, not solutions. And Better Brain I came across as a place where no, there are solutions. Where yes, traumatic brain injuries do play a role in Alzheimer's dementia, but they are far from the only role. And there are other things that you can do from a lifestyle standpoint, from diet, from exercise, supplement standpoint, that can, at the very least, meaningfully delay onset of Alzheimer's dementia, if not prevent it.
Patrick, this hits close to home just because I suffered multiple concussions. And when you're talking about the car keys, there was a time just in college that I got hit by Brandon Merriweather in a scrimmage on the back of the head. Don't remember scoring a touchdown 6 plays later until sitting and watching it on film where coach was like, go back downstairs, go, you need to go to the training room. And in your 20s, early 20s, you don't really think about that impact. But it's when you get out of the game where it starts to have an impact on you, or you start to think about it and realize it a little bit more. But we're also starting to see this younger generation actually kind of think about this a little bit more and making decisions about how long they're playing now these days.
Yeah, it started, in my time where some players were bowing out after 6 great seasons.
Yeah.
With probably $50 million of earnings still ahead of them. And they said, you know what, I've done well to this point, I'm going to bow out. And you saw that happening from time to time. I think this stands to empower guys who are at that point in their career, maybe actually take a look. And there's a blood test that measures p-tau in the system, which is the protein, which is the scaffolding to which amyloid beta sticks to. So they can get a sense of, hey, did I forget my car keys just because I didn't sleep well last night, or are there bigger issues?
Yeah.
And so you can get a baseline earlier in life. And like most things, the sooner you get into prevention, the more it's worth down the line, right? If you're off course for a year, that's easily fixed. If you're off course for a few decades, it's tough to overcome.
Tom, I remember recently there was even a candy bar commercial where a football player got hit in the head, and he's like, "I'm Batman." And they're making light of the fact that this guy had suffered a brain injury, and now not only is it something not to be joked about, or like you said in the old days, they would kind of joke about it. It's something that not only we're more aware of, it's also something we can address. And what are some of the ways we can start early with players and not, get later in your career or later in your life when you're like, oh, maybe this is something I should have addressed?
Yeah, well, first, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. That is my mother-in-law's story, and the reason we got this thing going, because we don't want that to happen to anybody, or try to minimize that as much as we can. Yeah, the great news is actually there's a ton we can do, and it's really not just it's players, but it's all of us, because we all do things that at the end of the day hurt our brains or make it a little tougher, and then there's a lot of things we can do to improve how we think and to lower our chances of ever getting dementia. So it's literally how we live. It is how we sleep, who we talk to, how we use our brains, what we eat, how we work out or don't work out. It's mostly what we do and a little bit of what we don't do.
I still have a question, though. The one thing is that this game is built on hitting people, and your brain is moving around and all that stuff. Like, there's so many precautions that are being taken, and you can see the numbers being better, but the hard part is the game keeps getting bigger, faster, and stronger, which that doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, the risk of the sport of football, of ice hockey, of lacrosse, as athletes advance, to your point, the risk is going to be there, and it's something that guys need to weigh in terms of, is the compensation worth the risk? What the great news is though that risk isn't going away, it is not the only determinant of your current and future cognitive health. That if you're someone who has incurred, look, all of us who play incur some level of traumatic brain injury, but there's other things we can do to mitigate any risk that stem from that.
All right, before we wrap it up, Tom, how can we learn more about this? Because I have suffered a traumatic brain injury. I want to know more, and it's not just elite athletes like you guys. It's losers like me and Tom that need to know. I'm sorry, I don't know your athletic background. What are some ways? Tell us how we can get involved. What are some social medias, emails, websites?
Yeah, the best thing to do is check out betterbrain.com. Our offering, the base offering, is totally free forever. Just want to get a lot of good science out there, some practical advice to people. So betterbrain.com.
Tom Lakovic, Patrick Kerney. We could sit here and talk forever because, like I said, my father, he's dealing with it. I had a traumatic brain injury. You've had concussions. So this is something not only elite-level athletes, but real people every day. And it's great that you guys are doing something about this because for far too long it's been ignored. All right,
Thank
you
you
guys
all
check
for
it out.
Appreciate you guys.
Better Brain. We're back on the big game. Jared, we told you all day, move your chair in.
Sorry.
Was it something I said?
No, you look good.
I showered yesterday.
You smell good, too.
Hey, I tell you what, something that we come here every year for, near and dear to your heart, the Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Gosh.
And there's so many. It's a shame only one person gets it because there's always 32 great nominees.
Yes.
And we're going to bring in right now Demario Davis, New Orleans Saints. But before we get to that, are you from Mississippi?
I am.
I'm from
601.
Mississippi. His pop's from Mississippi. Collins?
Yeah, born in Collins, raised in Brandon.
Columbia.
Your pop's Columbia, not far from Collins. I was born in Jackson. But
Okay.
my family, I was born in Jackson, but I lived in Brandon.
Okay, come on, metro area.
what I'm
Come
saying?
on. Rankin County's finest.
Hey, Rankin.
Come on, baby.
Hey, I never met him before, but when I started doing I'm like, I already know him.
Yeah,
Wow.
He's from Mississippi. You're from Mississippi by proxy because your dad was from Mississippi.
But I spent all my childhood there in the summers.
But let me tell
Absolutely.
you, and I talked about this about his dad last night. We were talking about how he grew up as opposed to how his dad, the work ethic.
Yeah.
Mississippi gets a bum rap from a lot of folks from
Yeah.
across the nation.
Yeah.
But you go down there, black or white, you meet good people
Yeah.
who work hard
That's it.
for where they get, and I'm sure you can attest to that.
Absolutely. I mean, his father is a true testament of what that hard work looks like on the big stage, because there's a sentiment in Mississippi that is misunderstood. It's a place that's very misunderstood, and so when you get an opportunity to kind of put that on display, you feel like you need to outwork everybody in the room. And it's like when I look at the great names, at the quarterback position, running back position, wide receiver position that came out of Mississippi, these were kind of my idols. And it was like, yeah, I like the people who are from other places and on other teams, but the people who are from Mississippi, they get it. They get the struggle.
Hey,
and
let me throw it out there because I'm
What?
going to throw it out there. Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Steve McNair,
yes, sir. Brett Favre.
Archie Manning, Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Need I go on?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You talk about a small state,
That's what I was saying.
a very
It's-
poor state, and you know what? I'm gonna put my nose to the grind. I'm gonna run up hills. I'm gonna do whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have the same fancy. It's like when Rocky
Come
and Ivan
on.
Drago.
Come
Ivan
on.
Drago had those fancy. Rocky up there running hills with logs on his back. And that's what I say. So whenever I meet somebody from Mississippi, I feel like I know them. I feel like they're family. And everybody from Mississippi has a very similar story, do they not?
Yeah, that work ethic, bottom up mindset. It's like gotta be the hardest working person in the room. Gotta be willing to outwork everybody. No job is too big. No job is too small.
That's how
Now
Pops
you
was.
see Walter Payton Man of the Year
Yeah.
award nominee.
I gotta say, it's you guys talk about living there and being from there. So as a proxy, when I go to Mississippi, the conversations that I have with people that follow my dad's career, they almost talk about him like he's some comic book character.
Yeah.
They're like, your dad is what? What?
Yeah.
Oh, I used
Yeah.
to watch him run up the sand dunes, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, yo, they think he's crazy. You know what it means being from there, but you've been multiple nominee for this award.
Yeah.
It means that you're doing great things in your community.
Yeah.
You're a man of faith. You're a man of honor. How does it feel to be linked with my pops, being from Mississippi and being linked to this award?
Oh, it's incredible because when I used to practice football and think about being in the pros, I knew when I was in the fourth grade I wanted to go to the NFL. Your dad was someone who I looked at as, what did he do to get there? Like, this was before YouTube, and you had to get an encyclopedia if you wanted to look somebody up. And really, it wasn't like 30 for 30s you could watch on everybody. You had to wait till the cable channel actually played something. You can't just pick and choose what you want to watch and study. And so as I learned about him, he was somebody, that you would hear about, kind of running through the woods, dodging trees, running hills, all these different things. And so I just went and did them. And it was something about establishing that work ethic to get me towards the space. But as I got older and started to find out even more about him, people recognized him for his character away from the game more than who he was on the field. And I think that was something that was birthed in me when I was young. My grandmother, like after church, we would, be taking plates around to everybody who was sick and shut in. And, on the weekends, we would open her home up to just people who was walking up and down the street if they wanted to eat. And so that hospitality is something that has always been in me, and that is something that has grown with me throughout my careers. I'm not just a player, but I also have this platform that I can use to impact people, whether if I even didn't have this platform, I would still be trying to impact people. But with this platform, it's an even bigger responsibility. So to whom much is given, much is required. I think your dad not only understood that, he emulated that. He took a lot of pride in that, and he set the standard for what we have today. And I think your family, nationwide, the NFL has really given a platform to players to go even deeper on their causes in a way that not only brings notoriety to that, but expands that impact with partners, with resources, and with community impact.
We're going to keep doing more of that stuff, too. We're going to expand it even more.
It's one thing, some folks their career's over and they're like, Nat, what can I do? But to be in your career and co-founder of Devoted Dreamers, and you're partnering up with, let me get it right, Stand Together. What are some ways? It's one thing to talk about, like, I care for people now, but to go out there and roll your sleeves up. What are some of the things you guys are doing with the foundation and trying to make an impact, not later in life, but right here and now?
Yeah, one of the things that I saw when I was growing up, when I got recruited to go to college, and it was time to start picking colleges, we had to take the ACT. The first time I took the ACT, I scored a 22, and the second time I scored a 27. The guys who I was hanging with, who I was, going to the gym with every day, going to the practice fields every day, they were scoring 13s and 14s. And that was a big, gap that they couldn't make the jump. A lot of them went to junior colleges and things like that, and that's just an even harder route. And so they were just as talented or maybe more talented than me, but they couldn't make the jump. And it was something with the education system. I knew it was a breakdown there. And so my wife and I, once we got to the league, we set out on the path to discover that. And we started to do camps around summer learning loss, financial literacy, reading comprehension. And that's how we really got to Devoted Dreamers Foundation where it is today around mentorship and education. It's been unbelievable to have partners like Stand Together recognize where our heart is around education and kind of come into the fold with that. So who at Stand Together is, they're a philanthropic community that empowers the change makers who want to tackle the biggest problems in our country. And when you think about education, that's one of those issues. And the main issue of education is primarily we're using a one-size-fit-all model. And we need to individualize education. Understand that all kids have, all young people have different strengths and different limitations, and they need to be in spaces that recognize them and motivate them towards growth. And partnering with Stand Together took what we were doing in Mississippi and Louisiana and helped us mobilize all throughout the United States. And just because of their vast bandwidth, their vast network, their vast resource, they've been able to help us scale our work around things that we were intentional about. And that work hasn't just been with us. It's been with other players inside the NFL. Stand Together is partnering with many projects here at the Super Bowl this week. And so they've been a tremendous partner, and it was a tremendous honor for me to represent them this year with my cause, my cleats. And so it's just because of how my wife and I feel about them.
Now you see why I got the 27 on the ACT. He's dropping in all them words. I was like, bandwidth, what you?
Demario is amazing. I was scrolling through Twitter last night, just going through, saw a video of a man that I just brought up right here saying, I really hope Demario Davis does not leave New Orleans. And he's waving around a flag.
Yeah.
Yo, the impact that you've had in New Orleans.
Thank you.
You have to talk about that because, coming from Mississippi, but now you have left your mark forever in New Orleans. My mom is from New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I just know that how the people look at the Saints in that organization and how they live and die by they love the Saints. How has that been, leaving your mark in New Orleans?
Oh man, we use this phrase, my wife and I, that New Orleans is a city that has hugged us, and we just hugged it back. Man, New Orleans is home. You know, it feels so similar being the way I grew up in Mississippi and what happens in New Orleans. It's such a rich culture, such hospitable people. And I think it's just a vibe, you know. It's a love that we feel from the city. It's the same love that we give back. They know we're sincere. They know we're authentic, and to be able to have the level of community impact that we have is really mind blowing and humbling at the same time. Because we've never set out to try to have any type of accolade or a certain level of accomplishment. We just did it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to love on people who are grateful. And I mean, when people come up to us, they don't say, "Hey, 56," or "Hey, that's the Saints player." They just come up to me and my wife and they just say, "Hey, thank you for all the work that you do in the city." Like, it's just real love. And so, man, for the rest of my life, we'll always be doing work in New Orleans, and that won't change no matter what.
When I grew up in Mississippi, everybody liked the Saints because they're right there, and Archie Manning was from Mississippi, the Ole Miss guy. So it was, and if you talk about Mississippi and Louisiana, there's authenticity and there's loyalty.
Yeah.
And you don't get that everywhere. That's important. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some X's and O's and Roberts and Joes. The defenses, everybody's talking about the quarterbacks in this Super Bowl matchup, but we all know you win the championships with the defense.
Yeah.
What do you like from each side of the ball? Are there players that stand out? I know you're busy doing your own thing, your own grind, but have you seen players on either unit that kind of stand out, or is this brand of football they play?
Yeah, I think so. This Earl Jones is the real deal. I really like him. He flows and flies throughout that defense. I like the mixture of veteran and young players that they have on the Seattle defense. I thought what DeMarcus Ware did was a major vet play on the fourth down against the Rams. That's what you got to have. I think the Rams had the perfect play call, and they probably would have scored had he not saw what was happening and had that veteran status move. But I think this game is ultimately going to come down to who can take away and affect the quarterback. I think both teams will be able to run the ball, you know, fairly solid. But it's going to come down to who can affect the quarterback, you know, via sacks or interceptions for some bad passes. These both quarterbacks have played at a high level all throughout these playoffs in terms of managing the game well. And it's going to be which quarterback can't manage the game well, who's forced to turn the ball over or get sacked a lot. That's what's going to come down to, and these defenses have to be ready to step up to that challenge.
Yeah, when you look at both of these defenses, they, especially in this postseason, not giving up big plays. I've been talking about that, and that's what they're both good at. Who wins on Sunday? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Oh, another shout out I should give it is Spillane. I really like Spillane's game.
Chi-Town.
I think he got nicked up in the last game, but
ankle.
Yeah. Is he good to go?
He hasn't practiced yet as of yesterday, and they said he's been running around. So the plan is for him to be able to play.
I hope so. I mean, he's been phenomenal. Man, these guys in the middle of the defense, they make all the difference. Who's kind of running the show? Who can diagnose these runs and kind of jump on them? Who can take away those passing lanes in the middle of the field? Because the ball is thrown heavily inside these days in the game, and you have to have a middle linebacker that has the instincts to be able to see those passes before they take place. And I think he's played at a high level, and he really has helped that defense elevate. And so, I mean, the team that I'm rolling with for the W is, I think it's going to be a close game, but the Patriots going to pull it out.
Oh, he went a left turn.
Oh, dude, I thought you were going to say the Seahawks.
I mean,
okay.
I'm a big fan of the Seahawks because some of my former teammates over there, I got more former teammates on that team. Big Cat, shout out to Big Cat. Shout out to Velus Jones. Shout out to Rashid Shaheed. You know, some of my favorite teammates are playing, but if I'm just calling it straight down the middle, I think the Patriots going to win.
He's Demario Davis. He does a lot of great things, not to be recognized, but he's been recognized, and
Yes.
for good reason. From the SIP, he's wearing maroon. I wish he'd have worn that maroon at Mississippi State, but that's a story for another day we'll have off camera. But right now, we're going to say goodbye to Demario. We're going to say bye to you guys. He's Jarrett Payton. I'm Chris Hagan. We'll see you next time on The Big Game.
Dominate. Competition can't contend with the hits. Dominate. Back 'em up.